Alrighty, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. I hope you can hear me all right. Should have done some sound tests. Let me look at the sound waves here. It doesn't look fantastic. Hopefully, this doesn't hurt your ears much. Probably should have done this before I started recording. I think that's a little bit better. It's about the same. We'll listen to it in post and kind of make our own determinations here. But hey, I'm your host, Caleb. This is Unqualified Analysis. You can follow me at CalebVUA on Twitter. You can subscribe wherever you're listening to this dang thing. And yeah, with that, we have got an absolutely loaded episode today. So I'm going to use my inside voice because I've been getting real bad about plugging in this here laptop, and it was completely dead whenever I came over here to record. So we are not in the closet of solitude today. We are in the living room of kind of squalor. I need to clean up here a little bit, but that's besides the point here. We are too jam-packed to get this thing bloviating. So with all that said, we have got a combine preview. Little spoiler alert, like I said on Twitter here on Monday, my day job is getting in the way of the side hustle here. So, yeah, I didn't get a whole lot of work done because I've been doing a lot. Working a whole lot. And it's, hey, it's going to be good here on the end. It's going to be good here on the back end. I assure you, I'm going to be all right over here. But with that said, we got the combine preview, and we got a whole bunch of headlines. So I'm going to try and just go through this as fast as possible. Pause for the cough here real quick. I apologize. Just had to clear out the old mechanism. Not what that means, but we're just going to keep it moving from there. But yeah, whole lot of stuff to get to. Let's get right into this here. So we're starting off with the combine, and I did not get a full list of the players together here that I was going to spotlight, but I figure it's easy enough to look at all of them throughout this. So we're just going to go category by category, and I'm going to tell you what I'm looking forward to here at the combine as far as what we're going to see. Really, this is more of just a draft preview more than anything else. It's debatable. I don't follow the who's going to participate enough to kind of know what to expect from any of these guys. But obviously starting off at quarterback here, you got the Cam Wards, you got the Shedeur Sanders. Probably not going to run a whole lot of drills, if any. Probably both just going to do interviews at the combine. They're pretty secure in their first round status. Though that being said, in a different year, they would absolutely be working out because that's, they would be a lot lower on lots of different years. But as it is, one of those guys is probably going to be the number one overall pick. So probably not going to see anything from them. Jackson Dart, that's one to keep an eye on here. I'm interested to see what his 40 time is. He looked fast in college. Obviously, Ole Miss quarterback. I'm intimately familiar with his game at Ole Miss. He put up some big-time numbers. He was very good in his final year. His final 2 years, he was very, very good. Had a stable of wide receivers at his disposal, but very, very good passing, running, dual threat guy. He's a little bit raw. He's not the guy that's going to jump off the screen at you and go number one overall. He's got the tools, though. He's a big quarterback. Like I said, very mobile, very much a running threat, a bit more of a power runner, I guess you could say, but he's got some speed to him, obviously. Good arm. Spotty accuracy, but he's good enough to throw for a whole lot of yards. So that's a guy where you're probably looking at the 2 to 5 range there for him. I'd say probably second or third round is when Jackson Dart will ultimately go off the board. If he goes to the right situation, you might be looking at a starting quarterback here in the next 2 years or so. Maybe even first year if he's pressed into duty. I don't think that's the best thing for him, but watch out. If he goes to the right situation, like I can't even really think of one off the top of my head, but hey, actually, come to think of it, the Rams, Jackson Dart goes to the Rams next year. Now, he'd probably be pressed into starting duty if he goes to the Rams. I don't know if they're going to have Matt Stafford there next year. His trade market is kind of heating up on that a little bit. A lot of conspicuous silence from a lot of these teams. And I think there's going to be a lot of meetings over at St. Elmo's this week in Indianapolis, the famous steakhouse, obviously, where some deals are going to get hammered out, I'm going to say. Or at the very least, negotiated with fervor. though that's allegedly not happening. Obviously, that would be tampering, and tampering never happens in the NFL. Wink. But we might see some movement there. If you got a bridge for Jackson Dart, though, worth a flyer. Worth a flyer, especially when you got Sean McVay as the head coach. Hey, it's worth a flyer. So that's one to watch. Quinn Ewers, I'm just not sold on him. Like, I mean, even Dylan Gabriel below Quinn Ewers, at least on the draft grades here for the NFL website. I'm not really a huge believer in Dylan Gabriel. That being said, if Dylan Gabriel comes in and Quinn Ewers comes in, I feel like I would have Dylan Gabriel above him. He's put up. Dylan Gabriel has been much more of a complete quarterback in college for the last 2-3 seasons at this point than Quinn Ewers has, honestly. And I mean, Quinn Ewers has put up big numbers. He's had some huge games, but there's just something missing there that I did see from Dylan Gabriel in spurts in his college career. So I don't know what to do with that. The bottom line here is there's really not a lot of answers after the first two, and even the first two are a little bit shaky. This is a very weak quarterback draft, to say the least. A couple more that I've got for you here. So Jalen Milroe, you're just not going to convince me that he's going to be a quarterback at the next level. He's going to have like a Jalen Hurts sort of progression to get there. Now, he does have an arm. He has shown some decent accuracy at times, especially on the deep ball. So he's got some tools there. His main attribute is that he's an athlete, though. Watch the Saints on this one. I know that Sean Payton has been just obsessed with like a Taysom Hill type of player that he can just use as a skeleton key. Jalen Milroe is every bit of the athlete as Taysom Hill, and Taysom Hill is a hell of an athlete. I mean, people forget whenever he came into the league. I mean, grown-ass man coming out of BYU, obviously he went on the mission trip, so he was a true grown-ass man when he came into the league. But I mean, it's a similar type of speed power combo, but I'd say Jalen Milroe is even shiftier than what Taysom Hill does. I mean, Taysom Hill is, don't get me wrong, Taysom Hill is a fast guy, but he is much more of a power runner. Jalen Milroe, you're getting, I mean, some breakneck speed and just crazy athletic ability. Like, and I hate the connotation of what I'm about to say, but he would be a special running back if he decided to do that. Now, I can understand why you should decide to go to the quarterback route, especially when you got an arm like Jalen Milroe. It's just a matter of the right situation. I would be fascinated if he went over to, did I say the Saints before? My goodness, I meant the Denver Broncos. I'm sorry, I dead named your coach there, New Orleans Saints. No disrespect intended to Kellen Moore on that one. But watch the Denver Broncos on this one. I could see them getting him in like the third, maybe second round if you really feel like reaching for it. And plugging him in and kind of just transforming the offense. I would say he'd get just about no time at quarterback, given that they just drafted someone last year. But, I mean, used in kind of a Taysom Hill sort of role, he could have a role in Denver for a long, long time if he does go there. So that's what I'd watch there. I don't know if Jalen Milroe is going to run drills. I hope he runs the 40 because I'm very curious to see what he runs in the 40. I mean, I could see it going low 4.4s, maybe even crack the 4.3s. Wouldn't be shocked. Now, actually, I would be shocked on that one. But I wouldn't really be that shocked. He's had some crazy, crazy runs in his college career where he just outran the defense to the edge in ways that you generally don't see a quarterback do at the college level outside of like a shoelace. Denard Robinson, that is, for the uninitiated out there that didn't watch football back in, when was that, 07, 08, 09, 2010, somewhere in that range. The years kind of blur together after a certain amount of time, but I digress. Jalen Milroe, very interesting prospect, just maybe not as a quarterback. Outside of that, Kyle McCord, probably a bit of a later round guy, maybe like fourth, fifth round guy. But again, I mean, he could find his way into being a backup quarterback for a while if he plays his cards right. Now, he does have some tools. Former 5-star usually means not that good, but I digress on that front. Could be interesting, though. Could be interesting. I mean, outside of that, not a whole lot. I mean, Curtis Rourke, salute to you. I wish you all the best in the world. Great college quarterback, just maybe not a pro quarterback. And Will Howard, kind of same thing. There's a lot of hype about Tyler Shough Don't know about that one. Don't know about that one. He had like 15 years in college. If he was ever going to be good, he would have been that by now, I suppose. And he's not been under some scrubs offensively. I mean, he went from Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, I believe, for a good amount of time. He might have been actually a place before Texas Tech. Then he goes to Jeff Brom at Louisville. So, I mean, not playing for scrubs offensively when you talk about the mindset and the philosophy. I don't see it. I don't really see it there. I got to start breezing through these a little bit faster. I spent a lot of time on the quarterbacks because it's a very important position, but let's get to the running backs here. So Ashton Jeanty, don't think he's going to run a single drill, and he shouldn't. He might go top 5. I think top 10 is reasonable for him. He's that level of running back. Just worry about the load that he had in college, but hey, seemed to work out okay for Josh Jacobs. So, although no, it was the other way around for Josh Jacobs. Derrick Henry, that's a good comp. Yeah, it worked out all right for him. So, Ashton Jeanty, I wouldn't be too afraid of that. He's a stud. Travion Henderson, also a stud. Maybe he won't even run drills. I hope he does, but maybe he won't. Dylan Sampson, beast. I didn't watch enough of his game to know how much it's going to translate to the next level, but I do like Dylan Sampson as a player. He put up some big numbers. He was that Tennessee offense this year, so I love that. Omarion Hampton, I don't care what the hell you say. I think Omarion Hampton's going to be a really good player at the NFL level. He just, no matter who the coach was, no matter how bad all the other shit was around him, Omarion Hampton just balled. Omarion Hampton, I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce his name right. I'm usually pretty solid on picking these running backs, these kind of like middle tier running backs, for lack of a better word. Omarion Hampton I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be really, really good, and I'm interested to see where he goes. I'm interested to see what he runs. Interested to see all those measurables. So, looking forward to that. Quinshon Judkins got a little bit of an attitude thing to figure out there. He might be an ongoing character concern for a lot of teams out there, that ultimately kind of scares them away from drafting a guy like Quinshon Judkins. If he goes into the right locker room, though, like if he goes to, like, I mean, they don't really need him, but the Green Bay Packers, I would say even the Minnesota Vikings, they're in kind of a running back need there, though. Hell, they might make a play for Ashton Jeanty. We'll see. That's just me hoping. I don't really think that's going to happen. Travion Henderson, I wouldn't hate, though. But, I mean, even Quinshon Judkins, it's all about the situation for him. I mean, it's really, for all these players, it's all about the situation. But especially for a guy like Quinshon Judkins, where he's, at Ole Miss, they weren't exactly sad to see him go from a lot of reports out there. He's a big personality. And that's going to rub some people the wrong way. If you have a good culture around him to kind of rein him in, people that he respects and will listen to around him, I think he can be a very productive player. But you just can't put him in a situation, like, all due respect to Dave Canales, I don't want him to go to the Panthers. All due disrespect to Jimmy Haslam, I don't want him to go to the Cleveland Browns for sure. Hell, certainly a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, I probably wouldn't want him to go there either, just because you're looking at guys like Tyreek Hill being the leader out there. Mike McDaniel, I like him. And I don't want to question his leadership too much, but he's not the type of leader I don't think will really be that much of a deterrent for Quinshon Judkins. And maybe this is just nerd bias by me, and it's disgusting. I wholeheartedly admit that, but I don't know. I just don't see it working there. It's going to have to be the right situation. And I think a lot of it's going to kind of take care of itself as far as what teams are even going to have him on their boards. But I feel like it's going to come down to the situation. If he goes to the wrong situation, I don't think he's going to ultimately stick around for very long. And he's a very talented player, but we'll see. We'll just see. I'm going to get a swig of this Gatorade real quick. Did you know there was a running back at Virginia Tech this past season called Bashal Tutton? This is news to me. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't watching a whole lot of Virginia Tech football, but I digress. Caleb Johnson, I want to see what his measurables are. I fascinated, I suppose. I don't really know what to expect from Caleb Johnson because I didn't really watch a whole lot of Iowa. I know he put up huge numbers this year, kind of out of nowhere. It's been a dearth of talent in the Iowa backfield for quite a few years now. And Caleb Johnson just exploded. And I don't know if it was because of the Iowa offensive line either. I think it might have just been because Caleb Johnson's that good. I want to see what he runs. That's the main thing. I want to see what he runs. I mean, that's kind of the case for all of these guys, frankly. But yeah, that's the main question for me. I mean, that's the difference between like a third, fourth round, or yeah, that's the difference between a third and like a fourth and fifth round grade. There is what you run. And hell, if you run bad enough, I mean, you could find yourself falling all the way out of draft contention there. But yeah, interested in Caleb Johnson. Damian Martinez, I don't know if he's going to test real well. He didn't really look. He didn't really look like a guy that's going to test real well at any of his stops in college. So we'll see on that one. Not sure how he's going to translate. Cam Scatterbo, that's another one I'm going to stake a reputation one on. He's just a football player, man. I don't care if it was in the Big 12. I mean, you saw it against Texas, who's one of the better defensive lines in the entire country. He's just got it, man. I don't care what he runs. I don't think he's going to run particularly fast. I don't think it's going to be like 4.7, 4.8 territory. But maybe 4.5s. It might be in the range of what we're looking for. If he ran in the 4.4s, I'd be very impressed. He's still got some speed. He's not just completely devoid of speed, but he's not going to run up there with like a Devon A-Chain or something like that. So I'm interested to see what Cam Scatterbo does. Just by the look of him, looks like a guy that's going to destroy, just murder the bench press. But I mean, I don't know if the combine really matters when the tape that Cam Scatterbo has is so overwhelming. And when you got the contact balance that he has, when you got the shiftiness in short area that he has, that's a guy that's I don't know how long he's going to be in the league. He has a very physical style, but he's a guy that's going to have success somewhere. I don't know where he gets drafted. He's going to have success somewhere. Mark my words on that. Okay, so I mean, Ollie Gordon, what a guy that's fallen from grace, man. You want to talk about falling from grace. Could he leave college last year? I don't really know. I don't really know. That's a tough fall from grace. He might be looking at like a fourth to sixth round grade in this one. We'll see. Maybe Oklahoma State was just so bad last year that it just didn't even matter. But hey, distressed asset prices for Ollie Gordon, man. That's a guy coming off a Doak Walker campaign in the previous year. So Woody Marks, shout out. I think he's going to find a role somewhere. I hope he sticks around a long time. Size limitations for sure, but I like him as like a third down back, a guy that you can run out of the backfield, and he'll get you some yards after the catch. Woody Marks, I wish you all the best. I hope you get drafted highly because you're always a bulldog to me. I'm never going to have a bad word to say about Woody Marks. I love that guy. And I love that he's listed as Woody Marks on the NFL website. I guess they thought it was going to be easier to type out Woody than Jaquavius, which is his actual name. Shout out Woody, though, man. Love that guy. Jarquez Hunter. Yeah, I mean, I hope things are going good for you right now. That's all I got to say. Jaden Blue, Devin Neal, it's a solid maybe on that. Outside of that, is there anyone else? Taj Brooks could be an interesting one. Not really highly rated. Not sure how he translates at the end of the day, but put up huge numbers in college. Was the entire offense for Texas Tech over the last couple of years, and there was a noticeable difference with him in the lineup compared to him outside the lineup. Could be one to watch. That's all I'm saying. Ulysses Bentley the fourth. I don't care that he went to Ole Miss. That's a hell of a name. That's a hell of a handle, son. That's awesome. That's awesome stuff right there. Okay, let's get a time check here. Oh, good Lord, we're already at 20 minutes. I gotta start breezing through these things. So wide receiver, we got the first Travis Hunter appearance. Will not be the last. He's the top-rated wide receiver, which is insane. I don't think he's going to run a single drill at this combine. I'd be shocked if he did. Luther Burden, number 2, doubt he runs either. He's pretty much a bona fide first-round pick, and he deserves it. He's been pretty much the entire Missouri offense, certainly last year, but over the last couple years, with the exception of Cody Schrader leading the SEC in rushing, if I'm not mistaken. Matthew Golden, 3rd. Really popped off the screen in the playoff. He had a crazy good game. Took over the game. I believe it's in the 2nd round of the playoff. I forget who the opponent was, but he had a massive one in that one. Tet McMillan. Listen, he got put into a terrible situation this past year. I'd be remiss if I did not mention he had a 300-yard receiving game to start off the year this past season. Either week 1 or week 2 against Northern Arizona or something like that. I don't know. Crazy stuff. I think he's got the potential to be a true X. It's just a matter of how fast he runs. But bona fide first-round pick. Emeka Ibuka. I'm not sure what I don't think there's huge upside there. I don't think he's going to be like a number 1 receiver. His very ceiling, I believe, is like a number 2. But as a slot guy, I think you could do a lot worse. Very good route runner. All those guys coming out of Ohio State are just polished. They're usually very, very good about molding young wide receivers like that. That's why so many good receivers go there and why so many good receivers come out of Ohio State. So I like him. I think he's a really good player. Trey Harris, that's X upside. He's a very, very good player. Killed everyone for Ole Miss over the last several years. Isaiah Bond, freakish upside, has never really quite gotten there, hasn't quite crossed the threshold into being that bona fide, X receiver. You need a bucket, you go to Isaiah Bond. He's never really been that, but really, really high upside. If he goes to a place like Green Bay, hey, they got a good pedigree at wide receiver. They could probably mold him into something there, but we'll see on that. Outside of that, is there anyone that needs some love here? Dante Thornton's one to take a look at there from Tennessee, formerly of Oregon. He's a big play type of guy. He could make an impact somewhere. Someone that needs like a deep wide receiver. Outside of that, kind of scrolling through these, not really seeing much. Go away, Windows security. Turn on virus protection. Get out of here. Hope no one hacks me now. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we needed for the wide receivers. Tight ends, obviously we got Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. Those are the guys that we're expecting to kind of go in the first round there. Tyler Warren's going to be a hot commodity for somebody. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I am trading whatever assets I have to go and get Tyler Warren. If I'm everyone else in the league, I'm making them pay a king's ransom for it. That's where we're at on that one. Interested to see where Tyler Warren ends up because I think he's a bona fide sort of, all-pro sort of potential tight end. Just depends on where he goes with all these players. Colston Loveland, just a Michigan tight end. No other way to say it. Solid receiver, solid blocker, just good all-around tight end. That's just what they make in Michigan. That's all they do. Mason Taylor, really solid tight end over at LSU. I know his name lesser, but he's a very good tight end. I'll say that. Him and Garrett Nussmeier had a whole lot of chemistry this past season, and you love to see it. Gunnar Helm for Texas, that's a big one. Harold Fannin, lesser-known name to the uninitiated. He was the best tight end outside of Tyler Warren in the entire country last year at Bowling Green. Was a freak. Yes, he did it at the G5 level, but he put up huge numbers. That's an intriguing prospect, kind of like a Gerald Everett sort of play there. Much more of a receiver than a blocker, but a guy that if you put him in the right situation, he could make some waves for you. Outside of that, would you look at that? Jake Brenningstool actually got a little bit of a... he tamped down the hair a little bit, though it is still voluminous. Still looks a little bit crazy, but less crazy than otherwise. Less crazy than otherwise expected. Luke Lachey out of Iowa. We know the pedigree with Iowa tight ends. He's had some good flashes, just can't quite stay healthy. That's the main thing that's probably going to bump him down these boards. And just being in the Iowa offense doesn't generally help you. Outside of that, yeah, pretty much all we have there. We're just going to keep it moving on from that. I'm going to be honest with you. Only real offensive lineman I know is Will Campbell. I know Kelvin Banks is very good. I don't know Armand Membu as well as I should. He's the highest rated prospect here on the NFL website. But yeah, I mean, we got some good players here. Offensive lineman, I don't know very much about him. We'll put a pin in that for now. Defensive end, we have got Abdul Carter, possible number 1 overall pick. He's a very, very, very good player. Outside of that, I am less familiar. Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, JT Tuamalo out of Ohio State as well. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, James Pierce, of course. Possible number 1 overall pick to enter the season. Got some real character concerns from what I understand, so maybe buying at distressed asset prices. Big situational sort of decision there. Also, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Crazy how loaded that Texas A&M offensive line is. I think I skipped Mikel Williams out of Georgia. Very good player. Very good player. Always seem to have 1 or 2 there right at the top of the rankings. Outside of that, is there anyone that I'm missing here? I'm really trying to go through these fast now because I realized that I was taking entirely too long in the previous categories, and I apologize for that. That's pretty much what we're looking at, though. I'm less of a hit on these defensive linemen, quite frankly. But Walter Nolan out of Mississippi, Ole Miss to the uninitiated there. So he's the number 1 rated defensive tackle, which tracks. He was, I believe, like the number 1 player in the country coming out of high school. Was the number 1 player in the portal last year when he went to Ole Miss. Now he's the number 1 defensive tackle. He's pretty much lived up to the hype from day one, coming in as a 5-star at Texas A&M. One of those doomed Jimbo Fisher classes. I'm sorry if I'm tilting the camera here a little bit. I gotta scratch my foot. I apologize on that one. But Walter Nolan's the biggest one that I know, frankly. Outside of that, I mean, I feel like there was a Notre Dame guy that tore his ACL, and I forget his name. Riley Mills. That's who it was. And he was, I mean, Riley Mills still he's a jacked man. He's a real jacked man. Questions about the availability coming into next season, though. So that's the problem on that one. Mason Graham from Michigan. I don't know any of these names, unfortunately. I gotta know more ball. Man. There's another Texas A&M guy here in the top 10 prospects, though. Shamar Turner. Crazy defensive line there at Texas A&M. They're so good. But J.J. Pegues, that's a fun name. You know, wish he didn't go to Ole Miss, but that's a fun name. Outside of that, yeah, I'm not going to get any of these guys. So we're going to move on to linebacker here. I know Danny Stutzman. He's going to get buried among the linebackers. He's not going to get any of the credit here, but he's a man, a man's man. And someone's going to get a steal there in the middle rounds because he's a guy that'll ball. Where is Danny Stutzman? Am I? Yeah, no, there he is. He's like top 10 sort of prospect. So, but Jalen Walker is the number 1 ranked linebacker here on NFL. Carson Schlesinger. I mean, you're just making up names here. You're just making up names here at this point. Play at UCLA linebacker, though, so understandable why I don't know who that is. Jihad Campbell, Alabama linebacker. Pretty good defense last year. Well, not really, actually, come to think of it. Bit of a down year defensively, actually. I take that back. So, honestly, what I'm getting here is I just don't know ball. I don't know ball that much. But Danny Stutzman, Jalen Walker, I know those guys are good. Jihad Campbell, I know I've heard him. I know I've heard him make some plays in the past year. I assure you of that. I'm really just destroying my ethos here. So we're just going to keep it moving. Obviously, Travis Hunter, the number 1 ranked cornerback as well. If he falls out of the top 3, there's going to be a bidding war for that number 4 spot. I can assure you of that. He's a special player. I don't know where they're going to put him. He is currently the number one ranked on both sides of the ball, wide receiver and cornerback. He's going to have a package for both. It's just a matter of which one's going to be the main. Will Johnson's the number 2. He's the best pure corner, I suppose, in this draft. I mean, Travis Hunter is something different. He's a freak. But Will Johnson, really good player on the outside there. Has been a really good player at Michigan for quite some time. I like him in this draft. It's just a matter of what does he run. If he can run the 4.3, 4.2, he's going to be just fine. I mean, really, we're probably talking 4.3, low 4.4s here if we're being reasonable. But if he runs in that range, he'll be just fine. He's going to be a comfortable first-round pick, I think, regardless, unless he runs something terrible. Azareye'h Thomas, Florida State. Not familiar. He played for Florida State, so why would I be? Great name, though. Great name, though. Congrats on being the third-ranked player in this cornerback class. Jahdae Barron. I remember that name. He's made some really good plays. He's a good player. Again, the farther I go into this, the more that I'm just destroying my bona fides here. So we're just going to move on to the safeties. Man, I really need to follow safeties more because I don't know any of these guys. Xavier Watts, I probably should know him. Played for Notre Dame. Obviously a very good player, but I don't really know him. Nick Emanwari, again, a name I remember. I just can't remember the player. And Malachi Starks, I remember that one. He's a pretty damn good player. He's a pretty good. I'm just gonna keep it moving, man. He's a very good player. Really, I don't know anything. I mean, specialist, who cares? That really, I just powered it down there for the last bit. Cut it to like 31 minutes, though. So I think that's a win. That is a win right there. I mean, I hope I did a good job. I think I did a good job on the quarterbacks and running backs. Wide receivers, I did okay. And then from there, I think it was pretty terrible. So if you stuck around, you guys are troopers. But that's pretty much it for the combine. Couldn't find the words there for a second. So we're just going to get a quick sip of this Gatorade, and then we're going to move on to the headlines here. I said sip. I lied. It was a swig. A good swig. I fooled you. You thought I was going to sip. I was never going to sip. Okay, so getting into the headlines here, we're going to kind of breeze through these as fast as possible. We're going to obviously dwell on a couple different areas, but we're going to try and breeze through these as much as possible. First and foremost, this is mostly a football podcast, but I got to stop by and talk about this one. Pour one out for Big Vic, folks. Not dead, but he is out for the season with a blood clot in the shoulder, deep vein thrombosis. Not good. Sad, scary. It's kind of what ended Chris Bosh's career, but that was a blood clot in, I can't remember if it was the lungs or the legs, but either way, same type of shit that ended Chris Bosh's career. So we're not going to see him the rest of the year. Scary shit. Hope for the best. That sucks. For all the Spurs fans, for obviously Vic himself, De'Aaron Fox, man, brutal. You thought you were building something this year. Unfortunately, it's all a wash, which is maybe for the best. But also, you're talking about Greg Popovich. He had a stroke in November, and he's not going to be back the rest of the year, probably. I don't know if he's going to be back at all, so you're probably going to be in the coaching market. Tough time to come to town for the San Antonio Spurs if you're De'Aaron Fox. But I digress there. Such is life. Anyways, the Jags finally have a GM. They hired 34-year-old James Gladstone, who was previously the director of scouting with the Los Angeles Rams. The Jags now have a 39-year-old head coach, a 42-year-old defensive coordinator, a 29-year-old offensive coordinator, and a 34-year-old GM, which pretty much just makes them the youngest group of keystone decision makers in the entire league. I'm all for this hire for anyone who has played a key role in putting together the roster of the Rams. Anyone who's been involved in the scouting for the Rams, they're good in my book because they hit nothing but straight dingers in rounds like, say, 4 through 7. nothing but bangers over and over and over. I don't know what their hit rate is compared to the rest of the league on those rounds, but it feels like it's way higher than everyone else. I mean, Les Snead's a wizard, and obviously being the director of scouting, James Gladstone had a massive, massive role in that. So I actually really like this hire from the Jaguars, and I do think if Shad Khan has shown us one thing, at the very least, he can kind of remove himself from the operation and let the football people do the football things. It's just he's shown a little bit of ineptitude when it comes to hiring the right people. I feel like if they got the coaching right and they got the GM right, obviously they'd be in good position. But I feel good about the hires, if nothing else. I think a youth movement is good. It kind of resets the culture. It really kind of gets you on a new page with everyone here. And I think it's, if everyone hits, everyone could be in their positions. I mean, at the very least, head coach, GM, for a long, long time. They could really find some success there. So I'm interested to see how this all goes. I like that move a lot. I think they did about the best that they could given the circumstances. So now you got this done just in time for the combine, for free agency to follow. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be all that good, but I think they did just about as far as resumes go, probably about as good as you could do on the hires there, based on what they had in the building. Roster's a work in progress, but let's let them work and see what happens, I suppose. Also, another tangentially related Rams news, the Rams have also given Matt Stafford permission to seek a trade. Don't hate this move, to be honest with you. He's getting old. He probably has like a year or two left. The Rams don't really want to pay him all of that money, especially when they're staring down the barrel of not a full reset, but probably like a Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah patented competitive rebuild sort of model where you hope to kind of figure it out at quarterback while continuing to improve the roster and make the playoffs if you can to kind of help build that culture. And I don't think Matt Stafford factors into that. I mean, maybe he factors in for another year, but there are teams that would pay a whole lot for him right now, a bit of a premium, I would say, and take on that contract, which I think would be big for you. I mean, I'm looking at like the Giants, maybe the Jets get in on the action. You might see the Raiders there. I mean, really any of those QB-needy teams, though, I think at this point, Sam Darnold is probably the guy that you're wanting if you're going on the free agent market, but that's kind of a scary situation to be in. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I could see a lot of teams making calls on Matt Stafford, and I think there's a non-zero chance that he does return. What the hell did I do here? I think there's a non-zero chance that he does return to the Los Angeles Rams, at least for one more year, especially if they get a guy like a Jackson Dart, who I mentioned before. But I don't hate this move. I don't hate this move at all from the Rams. If they were to move on from him, just because it's a rebuild. It's time to rebuild, and that's kind of where we're at with them. So up next, after also shout out to Nolan Smith. Dude tore his triceps during the Super Bowl and just played through it basically the entire second half. Absolute animal. He's expected to be ready for the start of next season, by the way. Also, he got hilariously hammered at the Super Bowl parade. I mean, he was trying to open the cop's car, which in any other setting could have got you killed, young man. But since we're in the victory parade, hey, it's all good. No one's pulling a gun on an Eagles player, I can assure you of that, during the victory parade. But he got so hilariously hammered at the Super Bowl parade, he actually had to go home because he was blacked out, just completely out of his mind, which, hey, when you win a championship, go ahead and celebrate, my friend. I did not expect the guy wearing those glasses to go that hard, though. So, hey, I see you, Nolan Smith. I see you, and absolute animal. I can see why everyone loves the guy. He's a great locker room guy and just tough as nails. Solid football player all around. Just gets better. That's Nolan Smith's whole MO. That's why Georgia. I mean, that's why Georgia had the defenses they had when he was there, because him and Nakobe Dean, best players on that entire defense, and now they're both with the Eagles, obviously. But again, we'll just keep it moving from there. Andy Dalton is signing a 2-year deal to stay in Carolina, so the QB room stays intact. I really like this move from a developmental perspective for Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers. I think he's already got a 2-year. He's got 2 years of rapport with Andy Dalton here. Andy Dalton has started. I think they've got a really good working relationship to where I don't think there's any drama. I think there's a clear hierarchy. Andy Dalton knows that he is the backup quarterback. Bryce Young knows that Andy Dalton is the mentor anytime that he has questions. They're obviously watching film together. He is a huge component of Bryce Young's development, I would say, especially in that film watching category. Because that's the big one. Confidence is probably the biggest one for him, and I think that's another thing where you just get in a guy's ear. You got to gas him up, and I think Andy Dalton's a consummate professional. Is just, I mean, rock solid every time he goes in there. At the very least, for a stretch, he's a really, really good backup quarterback, and I think he could still stick around for quite a while in the league if he really wants to. He could probably play into his 40s just riding the pine as a backup, because I think he's really just that kind of good locker room guy. So yeah, I love this move. I really do. And I hope the Panthers find a way to keep him in Carolina for a while at this point, just because I think that connection is important, and I think it's going to pay dividends in Bryce Young's play going forward. Just again, it's hard to calculate the developmental impact that having a guy like Andy Dalton in the building brings you up. So I really like that. If I was not effusive enough, I really like that move from the Carolina Panthers. We'll see that they might have themselves a solid little operation going on there. You know, if David Tepper doesn't get his grubby little fingers into the pie, always a big if. It's always going to be minus money that David Tepper gets his dirty little fingers in the pie, but we can hope. So far, so good. He's just lingering in the background for now. There's optimism. I would implore you to win more games next year. It would behoove you to do so. But there's optimism. There's optimism there that he'll maybe stay out of it for a little bit. So that's what I give you as Panthers fans. Outside of that, Cowboys guard Zach Martin is retiring from football after 11 seasons. Surefire Hall of Famer. Even if he has to wait a few years, which I doubt he does, but one of the greatest guards of all time. And I'm gonna share a stat with you to end off this episode, so stick around to the end to hear that. But crazy good player. And you know what? I'm just gonna share it now. I was gonna save it for the end, but what's the use in that? I'm just gonna share it right now. Zach Martin had more career. He had more career. Let me start over, because I'm doing this from memory right now, and I haven't thought of the fact here in a minute. He had as many career first-team All-Pros as he had accepted holding penalties. 7 first-team All-Pros, 7 career holding penalties. If that's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't really know what is. He's all-time great offensive lineman. And just was a staple of that great Cowboys offensive line. And you can quibble with other areas of that Cowboys team. Obviously, the defense never quite brought it together. There was always something missing. But that offensive line with Tyron Smith, another future Hall of Famer, and Zach Martin kind of anchoring that thing, special stuff from that offensive line for a long time. So yeah, this end of an era feels like with the Dallas Cowboys. They are not the offensive line they used to be, for sure. So it just feels like those days of great Cowboys offensive line play is just kind of no more, which is kind of crazy that they didn't win more games with how good that offensive line is. But hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, man? That's just the Cowboys being the Cowboys. Only they would find a way to have a great offensive line and still win or still lose a shit ton of games, except for the Cleveland Browns, I suppose. But I digress. The Saints hired Brandon Staley to be their new defensive coordinator under Kellen Moore. I guess they just really love the 2023 Chargers. Because, different positions. Obviously, Kellen Moore is now the head coach. Brandon Staley is now the defensive coordinator or the coordinator in this position. But This is exactly what the setup was over in Charger Land. Just different coat of paint. Different coat of paint. You know, maybe Mickey Loomis is a little bit better GM. I think he's a little bit better GM than who they had. Who was that? Tom Telesco. Man, had a lot of promise. Didn't quite live up to that in the long run there. But yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. Can't say I'm that optimistic on it, but hey, maybe just as a coordinator, he'll bring back some of that Rams magic. Now the Saints don't exactly have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey playing for them. Did they have Bobby Wagner on that team, or was that the year after? I can't quite remember. But that is all to say they don't have two, one surefire Hall of Famer, one probably Hall of Famer in Jalen Ramsey. So we'll see what they do. I am less than optimistic. I have never been quite sold on the boy genius narrative for Brandon Staley. He's going to have ample opportunity to prove me wrong here this season because, I mean, hey, it's going to take a genius to make this into a really serviceable unit unless Mickey Loomis gets in his bag with the draft, which we'll see. He's hit on a couple of these in the past, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. The Bills re-signed Khalil Shakir to a 4-year, $60 million deal, $32 million guarantee. I think it's like 60.4 technically. I guess they had to go 0.1 over whatever the line that they were talking about was. Whatever. They got the deal done. This one was kind of expected, though. We'll look a little bit closer at the free agent class for the Buffalo Bills coming up here. But this one was the expected one. This was the top prize for them to bring back. They had to bring back Khalil Shakir, and they did. So credit where credit is due. You did retain the top player that you needed to on that one. So that is that. Travis Kelce is coming back for the last year of his contract. Beyond that, it's not known. He says he has a lot left in the tank. I say you probably have a year left in the tank. And then we're going to be talking not $17 million a year. I'm telling you that right now. And if you are getting it, it's probably not going to be from the Kansas City Chiefs, which I would hate to see that. Hate to see him go to another team. He's a Kansas City lifer. I don't want it to be like Tony Gonzalez, where he goes to the Falcons at the end of his career and has some good years, but he's a Kansas City Chief. He's one of the greatest players of all time. Stay with the Chiefs. Stay with the Chiefs, my man. I want you to stay with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback, though. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think we really have to worry about that. Just a matter of how much of a pay cut are you willing to take there, Travis? Because after this year, I don't know that maybe you're getting 10. 10 would be reasonable for you, I suppose. You're not getting what you're getting right now going forward, though. I can assure you of that. Jason Peters retired, and this is how I learned that he was still in the league. Apparently played for the Seahawks this last season. Did not know that. Did not know that at all. I mean, probably first ballot Hall of Fame offensive lineman, though. He's an all-time great offensive lineman. What was it, 9-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro. Really, really damn good offensive lineman. Played for 1,000,000 years. So, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, probably first ballot Hall of Famer, just based on the longevity alone. You got to respect. I mean, the guy played till he's like 41 at offensive tackle. Frankly, looking like a sack of potatoes out there on the outside with his body. He was a rotund man for the entirety of his career. Quick feet, though. Great athlete. Do not let the size and the rotundity fool you. He is a great athlete. Really, really good athlete. Probably faster than me in a dead sprint, if we're being honest. And I'm like, just a shade over 200 pounds right now. So, no disrespect to Jason Peters. He knows, though. He knows, though. He's an athlete. Don't get me wrong, but he knows. Teron Armstead, he looks like he's set to retire. He's restructuring his contract to a minimum deal this year. It's got to free up cap space for the Miami Dolphins. And Mike McDaniel already said that they're operating as if he's not going to be there. So he's quote unquote not decided on retiring, but it doesn't take a master diviner to look at these tea leaves and read, oh, looks like Teron Armstead probably going to retire after this year. Maybe they're working out something for him to retire as a Saint. I don't know. That'd be a cool gesture because he's I don't really care one way or the other. He's a New Orleans Saint. He'll always be a New Orleans Saint to me because he had his best years with the New Orleans Saints, frankly. So maybe he can get that one-day contract done, retire New Orleans Saint. I'd like that. I mean, retiring as a Miami Dolphin just doesn't feel right to me. For whatever reason, it just doesn't feel right for me for Teron Armstead. That being said, if it does work out that way, what a career. What a career for that guy. Also, a bunch of losers in the league are trying to ban the tush push. There's a lot of vociferous critics of the tush push. I mean, specifically Raheem Morris for the Falcons. The Packers were the ones that proposed the amendment. I think there's other teams, but I just can't quite remember off the top of my head. Look, though, bottom line here, it's going to take 24 of the 32 teams to vote in favor of banning the tush push for this to get passed. And there's not a compelling safety reason to ban it. I don't care what you say. There's not really a compelling fairness reason to ban it. Look, if you have a great interior offensive line and you have a quarterback that is mobile, that is athletic, that is strong as an ox, like, say, a Jalen Hurts, why wouldn't you lean on that? Because not everyone can do it. The Bills aren't really all that good at it. Really, every team but the Eagles, they're punishing the Eagles on this one, or at least they're trying to. I'm convinced it's not going to get the 24 votes that it's going to take to get ratified. I can almost assure you of that. Unless something dramatically changes, I don't think this is getting passed. Y'all are just a bunch of losers for complaining about it, frankly. Do better on the first 2 downs, or really the first 3 downs even, so you don't have to get into a situation where the tush push is even an option. Just a thought. But the Eagles are that good that they are going to get in that situation all the time. So be better. That's my only advice to you. Just be better. That's it. Falcons GM Terry Fontenot said he is cool with keeping Kirk Cousins as the backup. This guy's got no idea what he's doing, man. I don't know. Terry Fontenot, and look, man, I'm a small podcast. I'm never going to have him on. I don't think it really matters. And if I see you again one day, I apologize for this. But I do mean it from the bottom of my heart. I don't know what Terry Fontenot's educational background is. He could be a really, really smart guy, and I assume he is a very smart guy. It's hard to become an NFL GM if you're not a very, very smart guy in a literal sense of the word. We're talking books. We're talking, eloquently, well-spoken, all that sort of stuff, all that good stuff. I'm sure Terry Fontenot is. I say that as a preface to say, as a GM, Terry Fontenot's a dipshit. Really not good at his job. Had no idea what he was doing. I don't think he had a real plan going into last offseason. He signed Kirk Cousins, turned around at the draft, said, ooh, look, shiny thing, Michael Penix, a guy that might be available in the second round. Or even if we trade it back to into the teens. But ooh, he's right there. Let me just take him real quick, and he's going to be our quarterback of the future. After we just signed a $180 million contract. 100 of that is guaranteed for Kirk Cousins to come in and be the starting quarterback. Also, you didn't talk to Kirk Cousins at all. You didn't really let him know that you were going to draft a quarterback last year. Just seemed like one of those, like Terry was walking through the candy shop, said, ooh, look, gumballs. Give me the whole fucking thing of the gumballs. What? Dumb. Completely dumb. Has made bad draft decisions. Has made bad free agent decisions. Raheem Morris, jury's out on him as a coach. He did not really acquit himself all that well. And do not get me wrong. Obviously, he deserved the second chance as a head coach from when he got that job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got to be fair about this, though. It wasn't all that good last year. I don't think he got it right on the offensive coordinator hire. Obviously, quarterback-wise, not great, and the GM's done him no favors whatsoever, personnel-wise. So, how much can we really take from this? I don't know. He was one of the losers complaining about tush push, though. So, yeah, I mean, we got beef. I suppose. Nothing against you. I do love Raheem Morris. He's He's a great guy. There's a reason all his players love him. He's a great guy. He's dead wrong on that, and he may not be a loser, but he certainly sounds and comports himself a lot like a loser when it comes to talking about the tush push. Just be better. Just be better, man. That's all I got to say. Just be better. Outside of that, what else we got here? Terry Fontenot, no idea what he's doing. Dipshit as a GM. We'll just leave it there. Last one we got coming up here. The Commies are allowing defensive end Jonathan Allen to seek a trade partner, as it looks like he will be moving on from the team this offseason. Obviously, if he finds a trade partner, which I wouldn't hate it if the Vikings got in that sweepstakes, honestly. We need ourselves a defensive tackle to shore up that interior and really take that defense to the next level, I would say. Jonathan Allen there on the interior is not hateful. Not hateful one bit. And you can tell I'm really integrating into the Ohio sphere here because I just use the term not hateful. That's a real Ohioism right there. That's a real Ohioism. But yeah, that's kind of something that I just forgot right there. Yeah, we're talking about the Commies. Jonathan Allen. I think there's going to be a good market for Jonathan Allen. I think he's at advanced stages of his career. You got to kind of start worrying about the shoulders at this point, I would say. I mean, he came in with what the report was pre-arthritic shoulders there for Jonathan Allen just coming out of the draft. So you thought there was a bit of a shelf life on him. He's really endured a lot. And stayed for a long time. I'm sure he's worked diligently on that specifically. I'm a man that knows a whole lot about shoulder problems throughout the course of my life so far. They're real bad. So I feel your pain there, Jonathan Allen. But at this point, he's still a really, really good player, and he could be a piece on a championship team. The Vikings, sneaky in play for that one. Sneaky in play. We'll see what they're willing to fork over for him, but don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if the boys get in the sweepstakes. Don't be shocked if you hear the Yaller horn off in the distance there, calling for Jonathan Allen's presence in the beautiful city. That's the word I was looking for, of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Almost nailed it. Almost. Obligatory reminder, though, I did beat Jonathan Allen in high school in shot put. You can look it up. It was at Boonesboro High School. You can look at the leaderboards. I can't remember exactly what year it was, so it wasn't the freshman year. It wasn't the sophomore year. It was the spring of the junior year, so 2017, Boonesboro High School. I don't remember the meet. I don't remember the meet. He went to Stonebridge High School, though. I beat him in shot put. You can look it up. It's all right there. It's all right there. Caleb Verzak, Century High School. He came out here and at least beat him in shot put. And that's all. That's all there is to it. Don't look at discus. I think he beat me in discus, but in shot put, I got him. This string bean, this string bean junior from Century High School, little white boy, beat one of the largest men I've ever seen in my entire life. Truly a freak, that Jonathan Allen, and that's basically the only thing I'm ever going to beat Jonathan Allen in. I think literally the only category. I mean, you take your pick. Take your pick on this one. Unless we're talking about legal knowledge. I think I got him there. Hey, checkmate, buddy. Checkmate, buddy. Outside of that, though, we're starting to bloviate. What are we doing time-wise at this point? We kept this thing to right an hour, man. Right at an hour, man. Maybe I should have gone in a little bit more depth on some of these things, but you know what? I'm proud of me. You know, just say like a short year and change ago, this would have been a 2-hour episode. Now we're cutting this thing off at an hour, and boy, we're getting good at this. We're starting to dial it in, folks, and at the same time, maybe getting worse. Either way, stick around because I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, I'm going to get this thing edited. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. Do this thing once a week during the off season. Usually it is Tuesday bright and early in the morning. Today is Tuesday night because, again, the real job got in the way of the side hustle here. So, with all that said, subscribe, like, rate, follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. Bottom right-hand corner of the screen, go ahead, do it. Type it into the Twitter, follow me, and then we'll just have a good old time from there. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, oh, no, 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 no. Hold on. Shoot me a DM on Twitter or shoot me an email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com, if you want to get in contact with me. Just keep putting it out there until someone actually does it, I suppose. Outside of you, Pops, shout out to you. So, one thing I learned this week, if I can ever click on the right one here. Already said that one. We got to keep it moving. Zach Martin, again, 7 first team All Pros, 7 accepted holding penalties. Insane stuff. But the oldest Nile crocodile is 124 years old, having fathered over 10,000 young. He's keeping the species alive by himself. That's a crocodile that's been alive for both world wars, and the Russian Empire was still a thing when it was for the first 20 years of its life, the Russian Empire was still a thing. Crazy stuff. Any hoozles, I'm going to go edit this thing. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday with another absolute banger. It'll probably be okay at best. But anyways, I will talk to y'all on the morrow. Adios, my friends. See ya.